Hey you guys, this is Jess with Sourceful Journey back with another video. It's been a while since I have spoke with you guys. When I say a while, meaning a few days. It hasn't been that long, maybe about a week. But I wanted to do a quick message with you guys, like a quick message video of sorts, if you will. And it was based off a posting I actually saw online, and it was something that I felt needed to be said about it. Especially because so many people do it. Especially when you think about those who are in higher positions. You think about those who are, whether it may be in a church setting, maybe it might be in a place of work, things like that. And this needs to be a reminder to them, because sometimes, the very thing that you think you're doing and you think you're getting away with, these people forget that at the end of the day, the spiritual space sees all. And the reality of it all is that if you continue to do it, the fruits that you think you're gaining from it is not going to be what you expect. If anything, it's going to be more so spoiled fruit. So without further ado, let's talk about it. Okay, so the message, and I'm looking at my little post here, you guys. So the message that I came across online, I forgot, I think it was under TikTok actually, but it was one of those like memes, if you will, but it just resonated with me enough that I wanted to speak on it and share my bit. It said, "You finally realized you were never just helping a stranger. You were building a helper for a future storm you knew nothing about. That's why it pays to be kind by helping strangers. Because in doing so, you can actually be helping yourself later down the line." I added that little bit in there. Let's talk about it. Never be quick to judge a book by its cover. That's another old school saying when I think of this statement here. Think of the number of times, you guys, maybe where you've encountered this, or maybe you've known people who've encountered it, where they would actually go into certain spaces, right? And they may go in with their best foot forward, giving it their all in various ways, whether it's with work, whether it's with doing volunteer activities, whether it's with the home front, as an example, where you're talking about those you live with, or even those you may not live with, but you deal with in some form or another consistently, whether it's like you guys live in a separate state, separate countries, you name it. Think of the time where maybe either you've encountered this or you knew someone encountered it, where they gave it their all. They came in with their A game, as I like to say. And in some way or another, the very individuals that they were aiding, assisting, called themselves stabbing them in the back, right? Doing things that they felt like there's no way this person might know. And interesting enough, a lot of times these people end up hurting themselves in the long run because they don't realize how spiritual that person may be that they're doing it to. Spiritually aware, that's what I'm getting at. I use myself as an example. I can't tell you the number of times where I've came across that, especially in workspaces, where, certain individuals think that they pulled a quick one, not realizing the full scope of how they fit into the equation, just like those very ones that they were reporting on to you. My thing is that if you could sit there and have that dialogue with them, and then decide to come back to me and tell me about it, why should I trust you? So I'm one of those people, I like to sit back and watch. I say this oftentimes to a lot of the people that come across me in some form or another. Like I sit back and watch. In the sales game, we used to call it the 80-20. If you know, you know. The 80%, 20%, 80% listening, 20% talking. And in doing that, it has worked out for me well, not only in my professional life, but also in my personal life as well. So in doing so, sometimes when you kind of pull back and you do just that 80-20 I mentioned, you'll be surprised what God reveals to you that maybe these people end up doing the same. That's going to let you know, like, oh, I need to keep my eye on this one too. And in doing just that, it just makes me forever grateful and thankful. Like, I'll give them enough rope to hang themselves without me having anything to do with it. Hands not tied to it in any way whatsoever. But it's by the doing of their own that they would cause that to come about. Think of times, you guys, where maybe you've worked in a space where, there was opportunity to move up, right? And let's say you did phenomenal work. I'll give you a quick story. I was in the sales space, as I mentioned to you guys in my older videos like years ago, and I was the top, if not the second top player, depending on the month, because the numbers fluctuate. But what was funny, because even during the points where I was at the top, period, the top altogether, compared to every individual within my site and the other sites we had. So when we had looked at the numbers overall, and I was that one, there were times where, you know, and I've actually did quite a bit of other things too outside of it. So not only was I doing my numbers, but I was also helping with training new hires, and I was training some of the veteran people, and I also putting together presentations, you name it. I was getting my hands involved so heavily because I wanted to move up. So follow me on this. In doing so, doing all that extra, right? When it came time to apply for these particular roles, whether it may have been like a lead role or a management role, somehow the management will always choose the one who has not even done nearly as enough as you have. When it came down to it, when it came down to them actually explaining why they did it, they'll give you some bull. I was gonna try to bleep that out, but no, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. They'll give you some bullshit answer for why they chose them over you. And what's sad is because it never turns out well for them. You see, you choose an individual just because you don't want to see that other person who's a very viable candidate succeed in that role. So you choose someone else, right? And not realizing you're only shooting yourself in the foot because that individual is not fully equipped or aware of how to uphold that role. And in doing that, you end up getting hit pretty hard because of that very silly decision you made. And then that leaves us just looking back laughing at you because you chose to make that silly move. But whose fault was that, right? I say all that to say, it never fails. It always ends up being a case where those who made the decision end up dealing with the brunt of that bad decision they made just because they want to keep the stronger, viable candidate in a certain role to appease their greed, their desires, rather than giving them a chance to flourish. So when you think about those type of scenarios, whether it's in work, whether it may be, like, let's say in a church setting, like for those who still are going into the church building, maybe you want to move into a different role within the choir, as an example, but somehow someone else was chosen over you because of closeness, because, oh, I know such and such family from way back, stuff like that. Or let's say when it comes down to family, like, you know how family tend to click up, it just depends on who's who, stuff like that happens, but it never benefits the person who's doing it in the end. It's because they don't realize they're the ones that's causing it, they're causing the issue to come about. If they simply would have went with their gut, because the gut is never going to lead you wrong, whether you like it or not. If you go with your gut and you make that decision, make the right one, when it hits you the first time, you'll understand there was a reason behind it. Not only when we talk about in the physical sense as far as the fruits you can gain from it, but also in the spiritual sense as well. You really hurt yourself at the end of it all. Not the very person that looked to get into that role, or the very person who was looking to move up within the choir, or the very person who's looking to build a closer rapport with that family member. So you felt that it'd be fun to speak ill of them just because you just want to keep that cycle going. It is operating out of ego, as I mentioned quite often in a lot of my videos, you guys. So the message here is overall, basically, to sum it up, just be careful with how you treat others within your day-to-day. If you see someone who has great potential, you know can really make some things move in a great way for whichever sect that you're in, allow them to do that. What do you have to lose? Because at the end of the day, you can be looking at a true diamond in the rough, and they may be willing to open their whole world up to you. And just because of that greed, just because of who you know for X amount of years compared to them, you sit up here again shooting yourself in the foot. That it could have been something that could have opened you up to a whole new world in terms of what you are looking for, in terms of your heart's desires, just because of who you're familiar with, just because you don't want to see that person get ahead. Be careful with that. Because, oh my gosh, another thing I want to throw in, I felt chills when I was getting ready to say this. Especially if the person's intentions are pure. If the person's intentions are pure and they don't have any spite against you, they don't have any issues with you, do so. Treat them right. If their intentions are pure and they give it their all, they come in, especially, you know, during hours that they normally are not set to start their schedule, or they do extras such as far as bringing in items that they don't have to give or don't have to contribute in any form, but they do it out of the kindness of their heart. And you, if you find it hard to do right by that individual, you need to go to God. You need to have a talk with God and figure out why. What's wrong with me? Why do I have such an issue with this person? And they haven't done anything to me. That's something with your heart posture. You need to get that checked out. Figure out what is wrong with my heart posture, where I have this issue with this individual, and this individual hasn't done anything to me. Right? This individual comes in every day, they volunteer every day, they work every day, they partake in the choir events every day, or every Sunday, depending on how your schedule works in terms of your church. But the point I'm trying to drive home, you have to figure out what is it within me that is irritated by this person, and why, when this person hasn't even done anything to me. And a lot of times, you gotta be careful. My Lord, I feel like I need to say this because I'm feeling like my throat warming up. So, and those of you who are spiritual, you know what I mean. When certain parts of our body start to warm up and get those sensations, you know it's because we need to do it. We need to say something or do something with it. From a spiritual perspective, I'm speaking on this because my throat was warming up. So I'm going to say this because I feel like I need to. The very individual that you're doing it to, if they seem to be extremely peaceful, it's for a reason. It's because they know from a spiritual level or spiritual perspective, they know the type of support they have behind them, and they know that they don't have to do anything. They know that the moment that someone, any of you, are to do something wrong towards them, they know that their team is going to take you down, and it never fails. It never fails. And this is why you gotta be careful. Because again, I always say this, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're a spirit that's running these vessels. That will never change. Just like the ones that have passed on and they're still here in this plane, the ones we call angels, or we talk about Jesus and all these other ones, these other deities, they are spirit. They were once in some form human too, in flesh. Do you understand? So there is no tier that's higher than the other when you think about that. So my point is, those are the ones you want to be more careful with as well, because if you do anything that is out of spite, or you do anything that's malicious because you are dealing with your ego, be prepared, because the smackdown you're going to receive from their team is going to be far worse. And not only that, chances are your own team will turn their back on you because of you operating out of ego. So that is all for this quick video, you guys. It wasn't really quick, but I felt like a burning desire to have to do this message. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I also want to say welcome to all the newcomers who are joining my pages. I see you guys trickling in, and I do appreciate you. Consultations are still open. You can find all that information on my websites. Also, yeah, other than that, everything has been good, you guys, but I felt the need to put this message out. And again, that post really resonated with me, and I couldn't help but think back to the past times I came from the sales space, or when I was in various roles where it was like with my old church that I was in, when I was actually in the choir. I actually used to sing alto, for those who know. But I just felt like I need to say it. Maybe someone needs to hear it in some form, and whenever I get that burning desire, I have to get it out. So anyhow, feel free to share your thoughts down in the comment section below, or continue to message me on my platforms as you guys have been. And until next time, I am sending you guys off with love and light, and I will see you in the next video, and I gotta get to work.